Good evening. Welcome to this special edition of News Watch on a Saturday. For the second day running, there have been ugly scenes in Gibraltar following the police operation yesterday against the semi-rigid boats. Around 30 people have been arrested for public order offences. A policeman has undergone surgery on a fractured leg after being rammed by a car. And there are also reports of heavy-handedness by the police. Stephen Nish has this first report.
The day started off peacefully enough as the police set up an outfield office to determine how many of the 60 ribs seized yesterday had their documentation in order and could be returned to their owners. However, the police say this was a complicated and protracted procedure, and the crowd was starting to grow uneasy, even though the police later decided that 2 of them were in perfect order and could be returned. Lawyer Chris Finch, acting on behalf of some of the boat owners, intervened, asking them to hold off until Monday, by when tempers would have cooled and the situation could be analysed more coldly, but the group would not be pacified. Around 30 launch owners moved on to a bar in the waterport area, where they started drinking, becoming progressively more abusive and aggressive. The police say they were hurling abuse and trying to block the road. After a short Europa points, the group moved down to the convent, where they again closed off the road to passers-by and traffic. The demonstrators shouted insults at the governor and broke at the GS post at the entrance to the convents. It was here that the temperature of the situation rose dramatically, leading to the eventual call-in of the police wearing full riot gear. Scenes, of course, like we haven't seen in Gibraltar for quite some time. From there, it was down to the sundial. As we'll see in a moment, the most serious incidents occurred here. First, the road was blocked off by the demonstrators, much as they'd done yesterday. The riot police formed up and got ready to charge against the crowd. This was the first of around 30 arrests made at the sundial.
I was over there with my auntie, and I saw my brother coming towards me, ¿no? And all the policemen went through him with bats y empezaron a pegarle fuerte, ¿no? Y cogí yo, vi a mi hermano, I saw him and I went running through him, ¿no? Y me pegaron a mí con toda la batalla, en toda la cara, me tiraron al suelo.
Were the men who were attacked and yourself, did you provoke the police at all?
No, nothing. I was just standing there, and I saw my brother coming, and I went towards him because they were smacking him. Aunque fui corriendo a salvarlo, me pegaron a mí igual.
Well, I was putting some petrol on my motorbike at the Cepsa station when a big group of cars came along. They were, just shouting, give me back my lunches, and You know, they weren't doing anything big. And then the police came, the police arrived, and they were here for a while. Everybody was shouting there, and they decided to leave. They just said, okay, let's go. And by order of the chief inspector, Sopardi, I think is, they put the police cars, across the road, not to let anyone out. And then the riot squad arrived, and they came down on the cars, and they were ordered to go in and start hitting people. And they hit everyone and anyone on the way.
Were they provoked at all? Was the police provoked?
No way, no way. The police weren't provoked at all. Nothing was said at them, nothing was done at them. They were just saying, give me back our launches, which everybody knows what's happened with the launches. And they just started hitting people, hitting kids, 14 years old and 13 years old girls, just walking by and just hitting them with their batons on their heads. And there was a man with a head bleeding, and he didn't even get assistance from an ambulance. He was just pushed into one of the transit cars and driven away.
This police officer sustained a broken leg and later had to undergo surgery after he was hit by a car which broke the police cordon and sped off. 3 men inside the car, a white Mercedes, were later arrested. After a high-speed chase, the car was eventually intercepted by Europa Pass. The first of several deliberately provoked fires was set alight near Bayside School in a piece of waste ground. The police say that friends and families of the people arrested continued pelting them with stones and other missiles for some time, a precursor of the further violence that was to occur later on in the evening.
Joining me on the line live now from New Mill House Police Station is the Deputy Commissioner, Mario Pallas. Mr. Pallas, good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
Is the police in control tonight or not?
Well, we are. We got all the force out, and we are being assisted as well by GSP, who have given us quite a number of men, and we are addressing all the different pockets of violence that have been erupting throughout the afternoon.
Those pockets of violence continue, so are you in control or not?
Yes, at this moment in time we are. At this moment in time we are. But the whole thing is continuing, and we have to monitor it very closely.
Has the police not botched today's job, Mr. Pallas?
Can you repeat that, please?
Has the police not ruined this job today?
In what sense?
Well, in the sense that there have been chaotic scenes of police brutality, basically, hitting people very, very strongly indeed. Is that justified?
Well, this is not the case.
Well, we've seen it on the screens tonight, Mr. Pallas, with respect.
Pardon?
We've seen it on the screens tonight with respect.
Yes. Throughout the afternoon, the police have had to respond to a number of violent incidents, and a lot directed to the police themselves. And this is continuing at this moment in time.
The police commissioner yesterday told me that to look ahead to today and perhaps look at more events of the sort happening today was a very pessimistic view. He was wrong on that, wasn't he?
Well, obviously, I mean, because we were willing to process the paperwork involving the seizing of the launches, and we in fact started to do this. Just that the people became impatient and wanted this process to be done quicker. But a number of officers from the police and customs, in fact, were selected to process this, and offices were open for Saturdays and Sunday, which normally they would have been closed. And this started at 9 in the morning, and we would have continued till about 6, working tomorrow as well. But like I said, people just got impatient, and all of a sudden the violence started to erupt.
Certainly we've seen extreme violence on Gibraltar streets today, and there are strong rumours tonight that the Gibraltar Regiment is confined to barracks. They are on standby. Will you seek their assistance?
Well, at this moment, I know that they have been confined. That's because I've heard. It's not because we ourselves have asked them to be confined. But at the end of the day, if the violence continues, and I mean, we will ask for assistance from whoever, if at the end we find that we cannot control any situation.
Have you sought assistance from London?
At this moment in time, no.
Do you think you'll need it in the future if it continues?
Well, like I said, if the violence continues and we feel that we cannot control it, if it comes to that stage, obviously we'll ask for assistance from any quarter.
What reassurance can you give the city of Gibraltar tonight?
Well, that we are trying our utmost to stop what is happening. At this moment in time, there's a group of people concentrated outside New Mill House, and we'd rather have them concentrated there than out in different areas, because what we have been finding out recently, there's been a lot of splinter groups, and obviously it becomes more difficult to control. but we are trying to regroup everybody, and like I said, a lot of people are coming in outside Newmore House because of the amount of prisoners that we have. Already we have about 35 persons arrested and in police cells.
What will happen with the ribs, the rib launchers, which obviously has been at the root of this problem? Will those be handed back?
Well, at this moment in time, nothing has been said. The ribs are there. We were trying to go through a process of looking at the papers, and those which were legal in Gibraltar, handing them back, those not legally, retaining them. But we started off this morning, and like I said, and we were working, and we were doing it. We were in the process of handing over two, which we had to confirm they had been imported legally in Gibraltar and were complying with all the regulations. But then, like I said, the people just became impatient, and they wanted everything done quickly, and there and then, and this was just an impossibility. And then, without any notice, I mean, the violence just erupted.
If the violence, or rather, if the ribs are not handed back, do you expect more violence tomorrow?
Well, I hope common sense prevails. I mean, we will try and continue with this process tomorrow, and hope that the people will come along with all the paperwork. And if those boats are legally in Gibraltar, we will hand them back.
Mr. Payasman, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Okay, thank you.
As the day wore on from earlier on this morning, the situation deteriorated with rioting and looting in Main Street. A police car was also set alight after rioters threw a Molotov cocktail at it.
The police riot squad was called in and took position at the beginning of the Main Street to prevent the demonstrators from running loose there, causing damage to shops. As the police shut off the area, groups of people on motorbikes watched them from different vantage points. The presence of the riot squad, however, came too late. Rioters had already gone berserk earlier on, damaging shop windows, breaking them down, and in some cases looting. Were you warned by the police that there was trouble here?
No, I wasn't warned, but we've been here since it's happened, and we're tidying up and clearing up and doing our best.
What are the damages? Any idea?
No, just like plate glass.
So it isn't too extensive, really?
Not at all. Not at all. Open for business as usual on Monday. Okay.
Excuse me, were you here when this happened? Were you here when this happened?
No, I wasn't, Clive, actually. I wasn't. I got a phone call at home. Somebody was telling me that the riots in town and to come down, so I just came down to close up. By the time I got here, it was too late. I couldn't put on the gates in time. So they've smashed both main windows, and they've smashed the little vitrine over here on the side as well.
Was the shop open at the time?
No, we were closed. We were closed. We normally close at 2 o'clock on Saturday afternoons, and we don't open till Monday morning again.
Is the damage very extensive?
It is very extensive.
Have they looted your shop?
Yes, they have. In a very big way. Yes.
Has the police been to see you about it?
Not yet. I've been standing here ever since 5:30. I've been standing here waiting for somebody to come.
But you've reported to the police that you've been looted?
No, I haven't done anything yet. I'm just so muddled up. I'm trying to clear up my side of the things first, seeing what has been stolen or what has been looted, what hasn't been looted, and then I'll eventually go to the police.
Will you be able to do business on Monday or tomorrow?
Definitely not. Definitely not.
Yeah, okay. Excuse me, what's the damage they've done to you?
Well, they've broken all our entire windows, and I don't see why, because we're not even involved in any of this. And it's going to be, heaven knows when we're going to get it all sorted out. We're trying to look for somebody to bought it so we can sleep tonight. But let's pray for Gibraltar, Clive. It's a sad day for us.
Has the place been looted? Have you lost anything?
At the moment, it doesn't look like it. It doesn't look like we've got anything looted. Just damage. Just total damage, as you can see, to the windows. And like I said, it's a very, very sad day for Gibraltar. A window can be repaired, but souls can't, you know.
Will you be ready for business tomorrow?
I don't think so. Hopefully by Monday we'll be up and going again. But tomorrow may be a bit too optimistic. Monday, hopefully, we'll be up and going. God bless. Thank you.
The broken glass of the Main Street, the rioters moved on to other targets. At the North Mole, a police car was attacked by youths in motorbikes wearing balaclavas. A Molotov cocktail was thrown into the car, which instantly caught fire. Luckily, The occupants escaped unhurt.
Well, earlier today we spoke to an eyewitness of those disturbances in Main Street. Christine Clifton asked her for her impressions.
Where all these people shouting and, you know, all sort of language, all sort of words, and then one or two running and starting fire under the wheelbarrow, the flower wheelbarrow under the ICC. And then, I didn't see it, but then the pillow box started getting into flames. And then somebody, I think it was from the same crowd, came and put the fire off the wheelbarrow.
Just how large was that crowd?
Oh, I couldn't say. It filled up all, you know, apart from the Burger King to opposite to the ICC. But there were all sorts of ages there.
Was there a police presence? Or?
No, at the moment, I'll tell you when the police came. And then we saw the fire brigade coming, not the big car, the smaller one. And they started to all shouted at each other to push the fire brigade car to tirarlo al suelo.
You say there's a huge crowd stretching right across.
Yes,
were they covering most of the casemates, the actual car park there?
Not the car park, from Burger King to the opposite pavement of the ICC.
And somewhere in balaclavas?
They were not balaclava, their own T-shirt. They made it a sort of a balaclava. So, you know, they took off their T-shirts and made sort of balaclava.
So they were all covering their faces?
Covering their faces, yes. And they took the thing from the traffic, you know, the post they put on
the traffic signs?
No, not the traffic light, the post that they put to cross the road.
The barrier, yes.
The barrier. And with that, they started banging on the window of the VHS. Broken.
Did you witness any looting at all?
Yes, a few. But a few looting.
Well, that eyewitness over those pictures, apologies for them being unedited, just coming into our newsroom now. Latest reports indicate that there are 7 casualties. 2 of these, a policeman who suffered a broken leg and a civilian with a head injury. At the Royal Naval Hospital, casualties have been treated too. These included 3 police officers. None of these casualties have suffered serious injuries. Meanwhile, a spokesman for the Foreign Office has told GBC that they are monitoring the situation from London. He said that the rioting is of concern. It is not at this stage seen to be beyond the capabilities of the local law enforcement agencies. The spokesman added that the Foreign Office has every confidence in the Gibraltar emergency services to cope with the situation, but that further steps would be taken if considered necessary. In Gibraltar, the convent has said that they will be making no statements on the current situation at this stage. The spokeswoman only remarked that the Royal Gibraltar Police is handling the situation and have the convent's full support and confidence. Following the reports of criminal damage and looting in Main Street, the Chamber of Commerce has said the situation has become totally unacceptable. Speaking to us a short while ago, the Chamber's president, Joe Holliday, has said they back the law enforcement agencies 100% for order to be restored immediately and in the strongest possible terms. But joining me on the line now is the Vice President of the Chamber, James Gallero. Mr. Gallero, good evening.
Hello.
Good evening, Mr.
Hello,
Gallero.
Gerard.
What have been your impressions of today's events?
Well, I think the saddest thing about today is that many in this community have predicted today's events for a number of years now. And I think it's awful and it's quite frankly shocking what many in this community have witnessed in a situation where, frankly, Gibraltar was proud of its reputation for being a safe place, a place where we had a family community here, which was one of the most special things about this place. And today that has been thrown out of the window. I've seen people crying today in the streets. I've seen a mother very nearly run down on a pavement while she was pushing her twin children in a pram. She was hysterical with fear, thinking that the people on these bikes were going to run her over. I think the worst thing about this is that whatever the problems that we face as a community, we cannot have a situation where the community turns on itself. We have too many problems in this community as it is. We're facing difficulties from Spain, we're facing difficulties from abroad, and we cannot afford to have what we've seen today in this town.
Do you have any comments to make on the way that the police has handled the situation?
I think they've been, unfortunately, totally and utterly ineffective. And there is absolutely no question we have a situation in Gibraltar today which I think few, certainly in my lifetime, probably in many generations, will have never seen what we've witnessed here in Gibraltar today. And I think it's the saddest thing that I've witnessed ever in my lifetime.
At this stage, do you think that help from London should be sought?
I think law and order is absolutely essential. Whatever the grievances of the individuals concerned, there's absolutely no excuse. I saw one man literally have to swerve off the road to avoid people and had a very serious car accident this afternoon. There are innocent people, and many people have had their shop windows broken. Many people can't afford this kind of a problem today. I mean, we're literally, I think, that the tragedy of what's happening at the moment is that this community is being torn apart. And I tried speaking to the Chief Minister, but I understand he's very busy. He's trying to get away to New York at the moment. He basically said, or his office, Mr. Montado, the Administrative Secretary, said, you know, there's nothing they could do about it. I then tried to speak to the governor today to see what was going on, and again, too busy. Not possible to speak to anybody.
Would you prefer Mr. Bolzano to stay in Gibraltar as opposed to flying to New York tomorrow or the day after?
Absolutely no question. This community is facing its gravest test ever. It is being torn apart at the seams, and I think it would be absolutely the worst thing possible for Mr. Bolzano to leave Gibraltar at this hour. It would be, it would be an abdication of responsibility, which I think would be appalling.
Who ultimately, Mr. Gallero, in your view and in the business community's view, whom you represent, is ultimately responsible for the scenes we have witnessed today, indeed the whole episode of fast launches, which has resulted in this tragedy this Saturday?
Well, there is no question that the situation has been allowed to go from bad to worse for too long. I'm not one to sort of get into a situation where I'm going to be pointing the fingers at any specific individual, but there is no question that this government has a lot to answer for. There is a situation today in Gibraltar which I think few people would ever have believed possible.
Does the situation call for resignations, do you think?
I think that the community will have to, on Monday morning, when people wake up in the cold light of day, if the thing hasn't been brought under control by then, I imagine people will be asking very, very soul-searching questions about where we have gone in this community. This was one of the most special places, in my submission, one of the most special places in the world. We had something here which was amongst the best in the whole world, and we have seen something happen today. We have lost our innocence as a place.
Mr. Gallero, many thanks for those words this evening. Well, incidents around Gibraltar continue, and we are continuing to receive information at the GBC newsroom. We will continue to keep you informed throughout the weekend if the situation indeed develops. For the moment, that is our special edition of Newswatch this Saturday. Have yourselves a good evening.
Good evening and welcome to a special edition of Newswatch on Sunday the 9th of July to cover the latest developments in the civil unrest crisis over the banning of rubber inflatable boats. The Chief Minister, Joe Bolzano, has said that lawlessness such as that seen yesterday in Gibraltar will not be tolerated. In a ministerial statement broadcast by GBC a few minutes ago, Mr. Bolzano outlined the background to the measures implemented on Friday, which resulted